We going to hot water cornbread, hot water cornbread. Hello, if you're new there, hi, my name is Rebecca. I am the owner of Kembeckled, our online beauty supply store where we sell colorful wigs, bonnets, do-rags, and more. And today is a story time, a vendor vlog story time, if you will. What would you call that? A stog? I don't know. But anyway, I went to Hot Water Cornbread as a vendor last year, and I'm just getting around to editing the footage, so it's time for a stog. That's so nasty. Stog is such a nasty word. So starting off the day, I took an Uber to the event, and things were already off to a rough start. I left my storage cubes, so I have to go back and get them. So for those of you unfamiliar, my storage cubes refer to my grid panels that I use to build my setup. So no panels means no setup. And to be honest, I should have taken that as a sign for what's to come, but you know, fuck it, we walk. Thankfully, my helper for the day, Tyler, was nice enough to drive me back home and get all of the panels, and here we are setting up. So why hot water cornbread? Well, after doing DreamCon a month prior, I really wanted to dip my toe into the local LA vendor scene and started applying to events in the area. So when I got accepted into this hot water cornbread event, I was excited because not only was this going to be my very first LA event, it was also my first outdoor event. So here's what the final booth setup is looking like. I basically wanted to create a dedicated station for each of my products where customers could take their time to browse each station and feel the products in person. I even added a wig display this time and changed up my table booth. My aim for each event I do is to level it up in one way or another, you know? Now I'm gonna be honest, my spirits were high during the event, but baby, that event was dead. Or so it seemed. Okay, this is what I look like for today. I'm doing a little check-in. I feel as though the way that it's set up, a lot of people are kind of just going towards where the food is at. And we have like the vendors kind of like in the back of the whole event. We've been getting some sales. It's been like okay, but yeah, most people are just here for the food. For the vlog, look at his pants. Look at how cute these are. A little girl just bought a sticker from us and it was like the cutest thing ever. It was so adorable. Okay, so now it is like what, 4 o'clock, right? Yeah, right now it's like 4 o'clock. It's been kind of slow all day, not gonna lie. We got a couple of sales. I think we made booth back, which is, you know, good. That's a plus, but it's a little slow as far as being a vendor. Like I said earlier, I think unless you're a food vendor, I don't think people have in mind to come and actually just like shop actual clothes and merch and stuff like that. Everyone just has in mind like, okay, southern food, I just want to have the southern food. So they're all just going to those booths, and those booths are all the way at the other end of like the whole complex like setup. I think you could pay extra to be located. Oh, my thing is like turned upside down. I think you can pay extra to be a booth like further down, closer to where the food trucks are at. But yeah. Hi y'all. Hey. Thank you. But yeah, I'm still thinking about whether or not I do this event again. We'll see. We have 4 more hours left, so we'll see how it goes. Any thoughts, Tyler? Oh, this is, by the way, this is Tyler.
I'm having a blast. I always have a good time here with Becca.
She's helping me out today. Weren't really getting much of any foot traffic and barely any sales, so naturally I wanted to see, you know, like what's up. So I decided to walk through the event, and this area that I'm in right now is the non-food vendor side where vendors like myself were located, and as you can see, it's looking a little slow. But let me give you a little bit of info about the event itself. Hot Water Cornbread is a Southern themed music and food festival that takes place here in LA pretty much monthly. It was originally supposed to be held on August 20th, but due to Hurricane Hillary, they had to postpone it to September 3rd. So that was during Labor Day weekend. They have different vendor prices depending on what products you sell, and I thought I best fit in the accessories category. The vendor fee for this category was $250 with an additional $50 refundable like clean deposit. So I ended up paying $307.55 with the processing fee just to secure my spot for the event. The load-in time was from 6 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and then the event ran from 12 to 8. As far as parking goes, there's no dedicated parking space for vendors, so you'll just have to find street parking, which is really tricky in that area. So if you're going to do this event, I advise you to just basically come early. When they initially sent out the event map, I was under the impression that all the attendees would be coming in from one dedicated entrance, because that's what it kind of like depicted on the map. But throughout the day, traffic was incredibly slow, so I thought that maybe people just didn't come out because it was Labor Day weekend. It wasn't until I walked through the venue that I realized that they basically had us in what felt like the boonies. Basically, the main events, petting zoo, and food vendors were all on the other side of the venue, so that explains where all the people were throughout the whole day. It seemed like if people did come to spend money, it was spent on the southern food, and understandably so, because I would do the same thing if I was an attendee. Getting into the expenses, once you take out the refundable cleaning deposit, because I got that back at the end of the day, because you know, I'm not a dirty bitch. I'm gonna clean my area, don't worry about that. Best believe that, I'm gonna clean my space. But including my Uber XL trips there and back, I would say that my overall expenses for this event was $300. And because this is my very first outdoor event, I had to buy things like a tent, tables, lights, etc. But I'm not going to include all those costs into my expenses, simply because I feel like that's more of a kind of like an investment for just outdoor events in general, and it's not really specific to this hot water cornbread event, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to include that. However, I still think that it's still a bit pricey. Like the expenses are a little bit pricey for a one-day event, in my humble opinion. But in my head, I'm like, okay, as long as I make a lot of profit, it's all going to be worth it. Spoiler alert, it was not worth it. Now listen, I did make back my expenses, but only by less than $20, which isn't a great margin at all. I spoke to a lot of my fellow vendors who did the event, and some of them didn't even make back their booth fee, not even taking into consideration any other expenses they paid to be here. So a lot of them told me straight up they would not be returning as a vendor. And see, this is why it's important to talk to your fellow vendors at the event. Make friends with the people around you. Get the tea, find out how everyone else is feeling about the event. You might be feeling some way and you find out that little Bobby 2 aisles down is feeling the exact same way, and it's not really a you thing, it's a us thing. So it's really good to, you know, start talking to the people that are at the event with you. All in all, I think that Hot Water is a really fun event, as they have great food, entertainment, and I would definitely recommend this event to a friend visiting from out of town. And if you're a food vendor, your business will be booming, as that's what the people came for. A lot of the food options sold out by the end of the day, so their business was doing really, really well throughout the day. But as a non-food vendor, I don't know. Personally, I feel as though the booth fee was a little bit high for the non-food vendors, especially if you're going to be placing them on the sidelines of the event and not in the mix with everyone else. But at the time that I went to Hot Water Cornbread, I feel as though it was fairly new and growing, so I can only hope that they have made some more adjustments to it. And speaking of adjustments, that leads me into the next segment of the video, which I like to call Becca's 2 cents from the tent. My 2 cents are basically actionable steps that the showrunners can make to make the event better for both vendors and attendees. So all of it is constructive criticism. I am not the type that likes to just complain and just be like, oh, that's it. I want to tell you how you can make things better, because I genuinely want it to be better. Like, this is a beautiful event. Let's make it better. Number 1. Reduce the vendor fee. I don't think that this audience has in mind to do any kind of shopping with non-food vendors at this event, which is totally fine. They're there for the food. Like I said, I want to eat too. However, that puts a lot of non-food vendors that you guys have paid for a spot here at jeopardy of not making their booth fee back. So I would personally consider just lowering the booth fee a little bit as you guys kind of figure things out and, you know, make some adjustments. And speaking of vendors, I think you have too many. For this event, there were around 45 food vendors as well as around 45 non-food vendors. That brings it up to a total of about 90 vendors for this event. Now, I'm not saying that you should be reducing your amount of food vendors just because like this is such a food heavy event, and that's what sets this event apart from, I would say, a lot of other events that they have in LA for this crowd, this demographic. However, when you have just as many non-food vendors at such a food heavy event, when you take into consideration that the majority of the spending money is going to be going to the food vendors and the other half of the vendors are going to have a split of basically the leftovers, that puts a big strain on the other 45 non-food vendors because they're only getting a split of like this little amount of change left. So I would suggest cutting the amount of non-food vendors by a third or even half and then see how it goes from there. And then my last suggestion is is in regards to the placement / location. I really was not a fan of the overall layout at this venue for this event, simply because it placed everything in different pockets. I felt as though the place where you had the non-food vendors at, you could have switched them over to the place where you had the petting zoo / porta potties, and the porta potties could have been where the non-food vendors are at. I feel as though events like this, people will be actively looking for where the restrooms are at. You don't have to worry about that. They're not going to be actively looking for the non-food vendors. So if you place the non-food vendors on the side, they're not going to get any action. I think moving them over to that spot will put them in the main area and allow them to get more foot traffic and then, you know, more sales. So I think if you are to do the event again more and more at this location, swap those two areas and it'll be a lot more successful for those non-food vendors. And alternatively, you can also just find another space in LA that'd be more conducive towards what this, you know, event plans to accomplish. But that's it for my pocket change. All in all, would I be coming back as a vendor? Probably not. I would just say having to sign up for a one-day event and then sell and then break down all within the same day is just extremely draining to me. And then factoring in the lack of profit from the event, I'm like, I don't think I'd return as a vendor, but I'm glad I got the opportunity to do the event. I always like trying new things, so I'm so happy about that. And also keep in mind that every vendor's experience at an event, it's going to be different. So an event that might have been horrible for me might have been awesome for someone else, and vice versa. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm just sharing my personal experience and it might be different for you. So don't feel like you can't try it out because I said I didn't have a great time. You might have a better time than me. Yeah, and baby, that is all my thoughts for hot water cornbread, but now I want to hear from you. Have you been to hot water cornbread? Have you attended as a vendor? Would you attend as a vendor? How was your experience if you did attend? And for those of you that have done events, do you prefer doing conventions or do you feel like you have better success at outdoor events? That's something I'm still trying to figure out. Don't forget to give this video a big fat thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And the next vlog will be going to Black on the Block for the very first time, so you don't want to miss that. But until then, stay safe, stay beautiful, and most of all, do it in a Kembeckled. Bye.